You are no longer needed, so feel free to leave our home. This was said by Debbie, my mother-in-law, about the new house we built. My husband, Kevin, and I were at a loss for words. What could we say? We built this house. Exactly. I'll take care of everything from mom to the store, all by myself. Julia, Kevin's sister, continued after Debbie's words while drinking alcohol. No, but I've been looking after that shop since Dad passed. And the regulars have finally started coming back. Kevin inherited the restaurant that his father, Robert, used to run. The restaurant had started to regain its regular customers since Robert, who had been frequently ill, was replaced. Just when the restaurant was finally on track. Sitting next to a grim-faced Kevin who looked down, Julia said to him, "The customers have come back, and I can handle it. So, you're just in the way." Without saying a word, Kevin abruptly left the house. I followed him out, chasing after him. Outside the front door, Kevin was looking down and crying. Seeing Kevin's tears for the first time since we started dating, I decided to get back at them. I am Emma, 32 years old. I work in the public relations department of a company located in the metropolitan area. My husband, Kevin, the same age as me, works as a chef at a famous Italian restaurant in a hotel in New York. Kevin and I were introduced by our mutual friend, Megan, during college. He wasn't much of a talker but was kind and attentive. He also responded to messages quicker and remembered anniversaries better than any boyfriend I had before. Attracted by these qualities, we got married shortly after graduating from college. Today, we were invited to Megan's house and went there together. Megan lives on the 4th floor of a luxury apartment in New York City. As we arrived at the entrance of the apartment, Megan welcomed us. "It's been a while, Emma, Kevin. It's good you got the day off together." We took the elevator to her apartment. Her apartment was neatly arranged and had a calming atmosphere. "My dad sent this over when I told him the two of you were coming over," she said, taking out a wrapped bottle of wine from the cupboard. "I'm not much of a wine connoisseur, but Kevin, do you know this one?"
Yeah.
It's a red wine that would cost at least $1,000 if bought normally. Hearing the price from Kevin made me feel dizzy. I see. It must be delicious then. So, how have both of you been lately? Getting enough rest? Megan asked, enjoying the wine. About that, we've decided to move back to our hometown. Why? I thought things were going well with your jobs. Megan inquired, a valid point. Indeed, we had no complaints about our jobs or environment. My dad is sick. I got a call from my mother recently. Kevin explained, setting down his slightly empty glass on the table. Your father was the one who ran the restaurant, right? Kevin's father, Robert, ran a well-regarded restaurant in our hometown. During our relationship, we had the chance to eat there several times. Every dish, while not luxurious, was delicious and showed a meticulous care. Seeing Robert, Kevin was inspired to become a chef. Though there were many hurdles, Kevin successfully realized his dream. Moreover, Robert was always kind to me. He was the first to rejoice at our marriage. I can cook anywhere, and I'm worried about my dad, so for now, yes. Both Kevin and I quit our jobs shortly after receiving the news. That's too bad you're moving, but your dad is more important, after all.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like we'll never see each other again. So let's hang out like this again sometime. I tried to cheer up a slightly sad Megan. We have been close friends since college. Megan is the only child of a wealthy family, but she is humble and values compassion. We talked about whether Emma should stay behind because Megan is here. Again with that topic? I'm worried about Robert too. After discussing our future, I decided we would go together. All right, as long as you two remain close, that's all that matters. Megan smiled gently as she watched our exchange. We should start getting ready to leave soon. Okay, I understand, come visit again. Megan accompanied us to the entrance. You can always come back, I'll be waiting. About a week after our day out with Megan, we moved. The day after we moved, we immediately went to see Robert. Dad, how are you feeling? Is something wrong with your body? Upon seeing Robert, Kevin pressed for answers. No, it's okay, really. The doctors are just being dramatic. Robert tried to reassure Kevin with a smile. Dramatic, huh? Anyone would be worried. So, what did the doctor say? As Robert sat up with Kevin's help, he looked down slightly. I have terminal cancer. Robert smiled sheepishly, like a child caught in mischief. The doctor said I don't have much longer. Kevin remained silent, hands clenched. I, too, didn't know what to say and looked down at the floor. The somber mood was broken by Debbie, my mother-in-law. Oh, you're here too, come, I have something to talk about. Despite being in the hospital, she was dressed up and wearing a strong perfume. Her shrill voice and the smell were almost headache-inducing. Debbie led us from the room to a bench in the hallway. Debbie, coming from a wealthy family, had money but lacked grace. She was extravagant with her money, desiring brand items and despising frugality. I didn't like her from the moment we met. So, about your father's restaurant and, well, the money. The story Debbie unfolded surpassed our imagination. The land for Robert's restaurant originally belonged to Debbie. They renovated the first floor for the restaurant and lived on the second floor. There weren't many restaurants near my husband's family home. This contributed to the quick popularity of Robert's restaurant. However, Robert was the only chef, leading to frequent closures lately. With Robert's hospitalization, the restaurant's income dropped to zero. Additionally, there was a pest infestation in an apartment owned by Debbie. Dismissing it as trivial at first, residents started leaving. Finally taking it seriously, Debbie hired a service for inspection. The investigation revealed a massive infestation of termites and centipedes. The floors and pillars were severely damaged, rendering the building uninhabitable. The rebuilding ended up costing about $500,000. Unable to prepare the money, Debbie resorted to borrowing from various sources. With Robert in such a dire situation, Debbie was still prioritizing herself. I was too appalled to speak. Kevin, sitting next to me, sighed. Mom, why did you let it get this bad? What can I do? I didn't expect things to turn out like this. She didn't miss Kevin's mutterings and yelled back in hysteria. I understand. Just calm down, Mom. Kevin, you can do something about Dad's restaurant, right? Despite Kevin's attempts to soothe her, Debbie continued to press him. Please help me since all you can do is cook. Having said what she wanted, Debbie seemed relieved and then left. I couldn't comprehend how Debbie could just neglect Robert like that. Emma, thank you, but I'm used to it. It's tough on you. But I need your help to reopen the store. After giving a troubled smile, Kevin turned to me, who was indignant, and made a request. Of course, I'll help. So, come on, lift your head up. I hastily tapped Kevin on the shoulder. I had intended to help even without being asked. There was a way to pay off the $500,000 debt. It was the inheritance my late father left me. My father, who was always busy with work, left my mother and me more than $500,000. It was fortunate we hadn't touched it yet, as it was meant to help us realize our dreams. The next day, Kevin reopened Robert's restaurant. Utilizing my experience in public relations, I posted photos of the dishes and interior on social media. Gradually, customers started to return, and the profit became somewhat stable. Moreover, the opening of a tourist spot nearby increased our clientele, especially those who saw us on social media. During this time, Robert, who had been battling illness, passed away. Coincidentally, we had closed the shop that day to visit him. We wanted to tell him about the shop and encourage him. We were chatting amiably with Robert when suddenly he began to struggle. "Kevin, Emma, take care of the shop, take care of Mom." His words were intermittent as he gripped Kevin's hand. I rushed to call the doctor and nurses, but Robert passed away. Kevin nodded, trembling, probably wanting to say he would take on the responsibility. Debbie, worn out and downcast, did not participate in any funeral preparations. Julia, the sister-in-law, also kept out of the funeral arrangements and was often away from home. As a result, we took on the solemn task of preparing for the funeral. We closed the shop again and busied ourselves with securing the funeral home and sending out letters to attendees. The funeral proceeded smoothly, and many people attended the wake. Later, as things settled down, we were having dinner at Debbie's house, while Kevin was away cooking and I was gathering the empty plates. Julia, who was drinking alcohol and looking at her smartphone, spoke to me. "Kevin's wife sure works hard. You're such a career woman. With Kevin's shop and all, you don't have to work anymore, must be nice," Julia said with a hint of sarcasm. She didn't like Kevin much. If she was so opinionated, she could have taken over the shop herself. I swallowed what I wanted to say and gave an ambiguous smile. Julia, who was pampered and favored by Debbie, shared some of her traits. Throughout our efforts, Julia didn't help and was rarely home. Well, if I were Kevin, having a capable woman by my side would be exhausting. She laughed mockingly, sipping from her canned drink. I was irritated by Julia's remarks, but took a deep breath and decided to ignore her, perhaps finding my lack of reaction boring. Julia opened her mouth to say something more when suddenly a heavy thud was heard. Kevin rushed over from the kitchen, and Julia and I followed. Debbie had collapsed and was groaning in pain. Julia only screamed briefly and panicked, doing nothing. Kevin and I quickly called an ambulance. Fortunately, due to our prompt response, Debbie survived. After being taken to the hospital, tests revealed she had suffered a stroke. After Robert passed away, it was probably the stress that took its toll on Debbie. Fortunately, there were no issues with her speech or memory. However, she was left with paralysis on her left side and could not move it well. Debbie became in need of care but was able to be discharged from the hospital safely. "You know, I have a favor to ask, or rather something to discuss with you too." Sometime later, Kevin and I were called over by her. "I want to build a house on the spare land. A 2-generation home that's handicap accessible." Indeed, living on the second floor of a converted apartment seemed challenging. But we didn't have enough money to build a house yet. And not all of the $30,000 had been returned. "The shop is doing well, and you can use Dad's insurance money, so please." I honestly wanted to refuse, and Kevin sitting next to me didn't look pleased either. However, we were living in an apartment near the shop, and the rent wasn't cheap. I half-heartedly convinced myself that if we were going to live together, it was necessary to pool our funds. But building a 2-generation, handicap-accessible home would require a significant amount of money. Robert's insurance money alone was far from enough. And we ended up using most of our savings and assets. "I'm really sorry, Emma. I didn't expect things to turn out like this." Kevin was utterly disheartened by the continuous streak of misfortunes and bad luck. "It's okay, Kevin. We can save up money again. And now we have a new home and can even remodel the shop. I tried to console Kevin as if convincing myself too. For the new house, we decided to go with a construction company recommended by Julia's acquaintance. A newly established public construction firm known for its modern and stylish designs for both interiors and exteriors. Though Kevin and I wanted to choose a reputable local construction company, Debbie, favoring Julia even in such times, aggressively pushed forward with her choice. We were busy with the shop and only involved ourselves with the minimum necessary. The new house was completed in about half a year. It was a stylish two-story building with both exterior and interior to our liking. The first floor, where Debbie spent most of her time, was handicap accessible. And our room on the second floor was exactly what we had asked for. The shop's renovation also attracted more customers. It was during the housewarming party in Debbie's new living space, when she brought up a new topic. "Kevin, I have a favor to ask, can you listen?" From her expression and tone, it was clear it wasn't going to be good news. "Julia wants the shop, and she said she would take care of me too. So, could you give both the shop and this house to Julia?" Debbie spoke in a cloyingly sweet tone, trying not to upset Kevin. But Julia had not helped with either the new house construction or the shop's renovation. They probably didn't know we had dipped into our savings and inheritance to build this house. Plus, I want to live with my boyfriend, and honestly, I think I'm done with all this. Julia smirked, continuing Debbie's statement. Done with what? Kevin couldn't stay silent anymore and asked. Really, you're so slow. Can you just leave? We're done here, Debbie said, sighing in what seemed like exasperation. Exactly, I'll take everything, the shop, the house, all of it. Julia seemed to find something amusing, though it was unclear why. Who did they think built this house and maintained the shop? But the shop is stable, and we have regular customers. However, his protest was not accepted. That's why, right? There's nothing Kevin can do that I can't. Let me make it clear. You two are in the way. Julia yelled hysterically. Kevin reached his breaking point and stormed out of the house. Julia, apparently pleased by Kevin's departure, was laughing. In disbelief, I glared at Julia before following Kevin. Kevin stood frozen on the road just outside the house. I rushed over to him. Kevin was looking down, crying. Where did Mom and my sister go wrong? Despite the terrible things said, my affection for Kevin, considering reconciliation, grew stronger. At the same time, I despised them for still enjoying Kevin's cooking. I decided to exact a grand revenge. Shortly after the incident, I called Megan. Hello, Megan speaking. Emma, it's been a while. What's up? As I shared our recent experiences, Megan was even more outraged than I was. Wow, that's terrible, they're so selfish. Megan's anger made me a bit happy. Remember what you told me before, Megan? Do you still remember?
Yeah.
I remember, and it's still on hold. I could hear the faint sound of a computer keyboard from Megan's end. I've talked to my dad about it, and there's no statute of limitations. I chuckled at the word statute of limitations. I loved this about Megan. Have you talked to Kevin? And he's okay with it?
Yeah.
We've decided to leave that house and return to your place. I firmly expressed our decision to Megan. Okay, got it. I'll talk to my dad about it. After our call, we moved out immediately. Months later, we were at a party venue. It was the grand opening party of a restaurant close to the nearest station, where Kevin was the chef. With Megan's help, we opened a restaurant in Kevin's hometown. Megan was a local landlord and entrepreneur. She had always wanted to build a restaurant, and our dreams aligned. We had always wanted to own our restaurant, even if it was small. The opening party was a success. I spread the word through social media, and Megan helped with the promotion. As we were laughing over glasses of wine, the restaurant door was abruptly opened. What is the meaning of this? She had come after all. Both Megan and Kevin expected her to come. Debbie, what brings you here all of a sudden? Megan, pretending to be unaware, separated Debbie from Kevin. Megan, you didn't know? Building a restaurant here of all places. Exactly, if this place exists, it's bad for business. Julia chimed in with her shrill voice. Isn't it good to have competing shops? It livens things up. I barely held back laughter while trying to calm them down. After Kevin left, and Julia took over, the shop's reputation declined, as seen online. It seemed the focus was too much on being trendy, neglecting the quality of the food. It was hard to imagine such a shop outdoing Kevin's. Also, do something about that house. It was fine at first, but it's unlivable now. Debbie revealed a shocking truth. The house was seriously tilted and had leaks. She mentioned remodeling costs as well. It turned out the construction company was gone. But there was nothing we could do about it. And my boyfriend ran away using my credit card. So, having this shop is a problem. However, we had no intention of closing down. This was our dream. Mom, sis, it doesn't concern you anymore. Please, stay out of this. Having been silent until now, Kevin finally spoke up quietly. Moreover, we're not closing this shop. This place is filled with our dreams. Honestly, it's a nuisance having you here. Kevin's rare firm tone silenced the buzzing crowd. Debbie, Kevin has made himself clear. Please, leave. We did not invite anyone who tells their family to leave. Megan called security to escort Debbie and Julia out. We apologized to the guests for the disturbance, and the venue became lively again. A year passed. Julia's shop, struggling with management, soon closed down. She began working part-time near the house, also caring for Debbie. For about 6 months, Debbie occasionally called us. But neither Kevin nor I responded to those calls or her requests. Our restaurant remained popular from the start. Megan and I helped develop new menus. The seasonal specials were well received, even featuring in magazines and on TV. While supporting Kevin, I also started working in public relations for Megan's company. When organizing Robert's belongings, we found a will among his collected antiques. The will didn't mention leaving anything to Debbie or the shop. It simply wished for us to live freely and happily, written in beautiful handwriting. The antiques, potentially valuable, were decided not to be sold by us. After Robert's death and all the turmoil, peaceful and happy days returned.